So I'm John. I need to make this look less like a construction site. So a couple years ago, I took a chimney out. Yeah, there used to be a chimney here. Problem is that left this open area. The walls were basically where the edges of the floor are here. Ignore that. That's a cabinet that I took out when I first moved in. So all of this came out. I patched the floor where the chimney went through. I put new joists under it. I had to run new joists up here because this was a load-bearing wall. And then I blocked this off here so we don't have the heat coming in from the attic. It's about time I do something about this. You can see I got a little, I decided to try and do the mudding, and that was like 6 months ago, and haven't touched it since. Now I actually hired a guy to help out, and he just disappeared one day. He was working above the stairs behind that wall. Come to think about it, I think I heard some tapping behind that wall for a little while. Oh well. I need to make this look nice. The idea is I'm going to completely remodel this kitchen next year. I've been saying that for 3 years now. We're renting this house out for the NFL draft, which is coming to Green Bay next spring. And we're not going to be able to get this kitchen remodeled by then. So I need to make it look less like this, so an Airbnb guest won't be super annoyed by staying at a construction site. So if you notice I didn't do any mudding here, it's because this wall is actually going to come out. This little bit, and then this half wall down here. So I don't want to waste a bunch of time mudding this, so I'm just going to cover this up. I need to do the floor, finish the floor yet. The cabinet here was up against the wall, which is why these screws are in here. This cabinet used to be a full-length cabinet, and I cut it down and made it smaller. You can kind of see the seam where I cut the door if it's just in the right light. Anyways, in doing that, I put a piece across here so we've got some screws sticking out, and that's part of the structure, so I don't really want to cut them. It's not even with the wood there, and then that drywall needs to come out, so I have to make the side of this cabinet look finished. I have to make the walls look nice. I need to fix this. I need to patch in the floor. And she is going to be hiding very soon. So that's the plan. We'll see if I can make this look acceptable. I also don't want to spend a ton of money because it's all getting ripped out. I just spent 48 bucks at Home Depot on materials, and hopefully that's going to cover the whole project. So I found this in the garage, and it's the perfect size. I needed 1 inch by 1 inch and a certain length, and it's going to be the face frame right here. It is perfect. I did not cut this at all. Judging by the L and the holes here, I'm guessing this was probably a shelf support in a closet at one point. But this is going to be my face frame right here. That way it will hide the plywood that's going to be up there. So the first thing I have to do is clean this up so we can go flush up against that. I'm just going to use the oscillating saw and just chip that away. So I put some honey mustard on this piece. We are flush, not the middle, but that doesn't matter. We're gonna stick this on, throw some brad nails to hold it in place. Mistake number one, let's put it on backwards. These holes are supposed to be hidden. Nothing a little wood filler can't fix though. Now this piece is actually some packing material my windows came with. And that goes there. And notice I drilled a little hole here. That way I don't need to cut that screw. And a couple of screws. It's all going to be covered up, so it doesn't need to look pretty. We're just trying to get flush with this. Now to find where these screws are, I'm not even measuring. I'm sticking this board on and pounding in with a hammer. And you can see the dimple right there. That's where I drilled the hole. All right, got all these pieces on. I have no idea where that came from. Found this in the garage, and this is part of that. You notice we're a little proud up here, but we're flush right here, and this is where it matters. This you'll never see because it's going to be the back. Now I made sure when I put these screws in to get appropriate size screws so we're not going through the back there. Those are what's holding that frame on. Didn't I do a nice job rebuilding this cabinet? You can't even tell that this cabinet used to hang down. There's a cabinet there. And then I wanted to put the fridge here. I've got a whole video on the subject. Now, if you notice, I have this sticking out proud of that, and there's a reason behind it. I'm gonna put plywood here, and I don't want the edge of the plies to be showing. So now all you'll see is this piece. I'll wipe up that glue. So it's going to be hiding that. That's why I did it this way. This middle one may have been overkill, but it's just going to be 1/4 inch. I didn't want pushing in. Not that anyone's ever going to be pushing anything on here. Let's take this off and cut the piece of plywood that will fill in this space. So we're ready to cut the plywood and put it up there. Don't worry, this won't go to waste. I've got a hole right here that needs to be patched. Don't worry, that wire is dead. There used to be a switch here for a fan that's hidden behind here. So that's what that'll be used for. And we need to cut plywood for that, which again, found the plywood in the garage. And I hope my measurements lined up right because this is my only shot. I have no idea where this came from. This side's nicer though. I should have made this the outside. Oh well, too late now. All right, it's just kind of hanging there, but this is how it's gonna look. Notice how the edges of the ply are hidden, unlike up there. Up here, I'm just gonna put a piece of trim covering that. I'm unsure what I'm gonna do with this whole area. We'll figure that out later. But I'll throw some glue on there and some brad nails, and the side of the cabinet will be essentially ready for paint. I just realized I have nothing supporting that corner, so that'll push in. But it's by the ceiling, and it's a temporary fix, so I think it'll be fine. If this was intended to be a long-term thing, then yeah, I would do it right. Or if it was something where someone might touch it, no one's gonna touch that. Drew myself a little picture there. It's a little excessive on the glue, but I had to cut the top off, and it's mostly empty. It's down like here, so I'm probably just gonna throw it out after this project. And we are in, once again, making sure to get nails that aren't gonna blow through the inside of there. And I saw some glue dripping down, but it's all landing on unfinished floor, so I don't care. And if it lands on finished floor, the fridge is gonna be pushed to the corner here anyway, so. I actually had to move this outlet here. That's where it used to be. Oh, don't want glue to drip on my phone. I don't feel too bad sawing after dark because one of the other neighbors are doing it. So I don't know where this came from. Apparently I paid 25 cents for it. And that's a little beat up, but I'm gonna just see how it looks. Maybe they were worried that it was too late, but heard me doing it, so I figured, it's probably fine. So we can have it go here, and they do a little bit of mudding there to fix that up. We can have it go here, but now it overhangs there. Or we can cut it shorter, but then that corner is gonna be showing. It would be like that. I don't know which one would look better. I think I'm getting a little too crazy here. I don't think it matters. All right, so I filled in this, so once that piece of trim is up, and a little sanding and paint, it'll look fine. I also kind of filled this in. So tomorrow I'll come in and hit this with some sandpaper and see if I can sculpt this to make it look a little bit nicer. And we'll go from there. So when I put this patch in, I didn't realize that there are actually 2 layers of subfloor in here. And I'm not sure why. So hopefully I measured that right, because this looks a lot thinner than this one that I just cut. Well, we're gonna try and fit it in. I measured it, I swear it was 3/4. Yeah, that looks pretty spot on to me, or even actually under this board a little bit. This piece is gonna need to come off. When I put this here, there's a cabinet there, so we're down to the subfloor. I just needed something to fill in the space so it was level with this. It was under the fridge, who cares? Here, I'm gonna extend the floor across, probably all the way, just because there will be a gap when the fridge is moved over. But this is good to go. I'm not doing any adhesive or anything. I'm just gonna screw it down. It may squeak one day, it'll probably squeak one day, but the fridge, even after the remodel, is gonna be here, so you're never gonna walk on it. That looks cleaner already. Nice and solid. I am not gonna do any more on the floor though until I get the walls all done. Don't wanna worry about dripping paint or spackle or anything. So this is about where I have to stop because I don't wanna do this until that's done. Can't do that until that dries, which hopefully will be dry by tomorrow morning. I caked it on pretty thick there. And can't do this until the walls are done. I'm not gonna worry about this. I'm never gonna get this looking nice. There's gonna be a refrigerator in front of it, so I don't care. Foreman wanted to come up and inspect my work. I think I did a good job. All right, those of you who can do drywall mud, I applaud you. Because this, I spent about an hour working on this, and it looks like crap. hopefully it sands out nicely. I did the inside corner here, another coat there, and then another coat here, and I really fanned it out far. I think especially this seam is going to be really noticeable though still. I just try to do like essentially a skim coat, and I'll sand it all down. I also touched up a couple of spots on there, and you can kind of see spots along here. When I tore this wall out, I stapled a tarp up here because this beam is all coming out. So I didn't care if I got staples up there. But since we need to make it look nice for the week someone will be renting it, I filled those in. I'll touch them up with paint. That's where I had a support beam when I was taking out the load bearing wall. I got to paint that. I got so much of it on the floor. I need to clean that up so the cats don't eat it. But, well, I don't think I'm going to get this done before Christiana gets back like I had planned. Tomorrow, hopefully this will be dry enough so I can sand it. I'm not sure if it will be. This stuff takes a long time to dry when you put it on as thick as I do. So I'll try to sand it down and by tomorrow night, and maybe do another coat, maybe start the primer, we'll see. Kind of messed with the bottom corner a little bit, clean up the floor, but that's okay because it'll be covered by both baseboard and a refrigerator. That's never gonna look nice though. I even washed up Christiana's shoes because I was wearing them and got drywall mud on them, but I didn't want to get them on my shoes. To help encourage faster drying, I'm running a fan on it. It's not pointed up at the ceiling one. I don't really have any other fans that would work, but there's still gonna be airflow in here. Foreman's back for inspection. She really wants to eat the drywall mud, which is why I kind of blocked it a little bit here to discourage the foreman from going over there. All right, is it perfect? No. Is it okay? No. Is it good enough? Not really. But it's done. This corner is terrible. It definitely bumps down quite a bit here. It's just matching the thickness of that and this, not easy. But because this is very uneven, this is drywall and then a very thick coat of mud. It can get as thick as 1.5 inches in some spots, and it's not an even thickness. But when I eventually do the full remodel of the kitchen, this area is all going to be completely covered because the fridge is going to be here. And the cabinet above the fridge, I'm going to actually pull to the front of the fridge. So it won't be visible at all. It's good enough for now. This, I don't like that line there, but I think if I run a bead of caulk in there, it'll look just fine. I'm going to do the same thing right there. Oh, I forgot to sand the bottom half of this. I'll give that a quick sand. It's going to be behind the fridge, so it doesn't matter that much. And then I will clean up. The foreman is very unhappy right now. All right, all sanded, cleaned up. I put this piece on here. There's a little bit of a gap there. I'll just fill it in with some caulking. This turned out decent. I'll fill that in with some caulking. Again, this is just temporary, so it doesn't need to be perfect. I don't know how many times I'm going to say this. I have to keep justifying it to myself. But nice if I cut that edge at a 45, but it'll be fine. So now it's time to start priming the walls. So I pulled the fridge out. I'm gonna sweep this up because I don't know. I don't think any of this will be exposed, but some of this might with the stove here. So I'm just gonna give this a coat of paint. There's a bit of a ridge from years of painting. You can see this is where the cabinet used to be. Because I think the fridge is going to come to about here-ish. Hopefully it blocks that. If not, I'll just put a new cover on. Actually, that would end up behind the stove anyway. So that'll get painted. I probably should have pulled it out before because that could use a little mud. Doesn't matter. It's going to be behind the fridge. So let's get the primer out and we'll start priming. Using Kills, it actually says paint in 1 hour, so I might be able to paint tonight. Before painting, make sure to cover your roller in tape. That way when you pull the tape off, it takes all of the lint and whatnot on the roller. Even lint-free rollers have lint. Little tip I learned, that way you don't have lint in your paint on the wall. Oh man, that primer has some fumes. I've got the fan blowing air outside. So it's not as thick as I'd like, thicker on the top than on the bottom, but I used every last bit of that primer. So we got a pretty good start. Paint will be next, I can paint in an hour, but in the meantime, let's get this corner on and then start working on the floor. So for the corner, I've got this pre-primed 1x3, but if you notice, we're hitting that. Let me show you a trick on how to make that cut. So I'm gonna take this piece of scrap that's the same thickness, I'm gonna put it right where it's gonna go, and then what I'll do is I'll use it as a guide for this oscillating saw to make the cut. And I'll do that here and down there. Now the reason I use a piece of scrap is so it doesn't scrape the heck out of this. See what I mean? Look how scraped up that was. But I got this cut in. It feels like it's not all the way through, so I'm gonna get a screwdriver and pry that piece out. Now, out with the old, in with the new, kinda. And you see how that's gonna line up very nicely. Obviously it'll be this, but now I have to do the same thing up here. So we're tight and then we're not. That's a pretty big gap, and then you see we're tight again down on the bottom. This wall is curved quite a bit, and I checked it with the level. So we're just gonna have to fill that in with some caulking. I'm not gonna scribe this board and cut it, but for now, I'm realizing over the floor here, this is gonna be a bit of a pain once that's in, so I'm gonna actually do the flooring first. All right, so this is just a spacer. That way the fridge isn't gonna be wobbly from sitting on here. I already took that floorboard off. Look at this floor. I am going to take this piece off. I think I'm gonna leave this one on. I think I'm just gonna cut it flat because the stove, this will be covered up anyways. I just need to make the front here that will be exposed look nice, was just these first two boards. This one was actually cut around this gap. That's why I pulled that one out. This one I'm gonna pull out so you don't have two seams right next to each other. And then going further back, I don't care if there are a straight line of seams because it's gonna be covered by appliances. All right, this is a good starting point. I had to cut that because I couldn't get this one out without pulling that one off, and that goes a decent ways under. I'm not gonna mess with that. So first things first, I need to cut one to go here. I'm gonna have to notch a little bit around this. It doesn't need to be pretty because that's gonna be covered up. So we'll put one here, then we'll go one across here, and we'll work our way back. By the way, when I bought the house, they left me 4.5 boxes of this flooring. I've already used some in the bathroom where I took a cabinet out. So, using some in the kitchen. So I'm on my way to Walmart. I need a flooring bar. I don't know what they're called, if it's just a flooring bar, but it's like the shape of a Z, so I can hook on the end of the plank and I can pound it into place. I don't have one. I feel like it's something that I have, but I dug through all my stuff. It's not a tool that I've ever used, so if I have it, it's, oh, this came on a pallet, and I could probably use it at some point. Anyways, I realized this at 9:09 p.m. Home Depot and Menards both closed at 9. Walmart is the only thing open. I looked online, Walmart does not have them in store according to the app by searching flooring bar or flooring kit or things like that. They might have one or something that would work, but I'm not gonna hold my breath. It's nice to get out of those fumes though. I'm gonna look to see what they have. If nothing else, I'm gonna try double-sided tape and stick a board to it. We'll see if that works, because I'm sure they'll have that. Oh, and the reason it's super important that I'm going at 9:34 at night to do this is because in order to have this done before Christiana gets back, I need to have the flooring done tonight. Oh, I also thought about going to Sam's or Costco because I know they sell flooring, so maybe they would sell the installation kit too. But they're both closed. This would be a good place to put a red box. These would work perfect if it comes down here, if it came back up there. Of course, I already have a couple of these. This is the tiniest hammer I've ever seen. I mean, actually, this is a perfectly adequate hammer. I'm sure a lot of contractors are very satisfied with that hammer. Ooh. I don't need another flashlight. I have too many flashlights. I'm a little surprised Walmart doesn't actually carry flooring. It seems like something they would do. They also have a really small tools section. I know they're really trying to bump up their tools at their Hart brand. I would have thought it'd be more than one aisle. Only one left. Hopefully this doesn't leave a bad residue or anything. I miss late night Walmart runs. I kind of want to hang out here and look at stuff more, but I'm on a tight time schedule. It also says it may damage surfaces if removed, so I don't know. I mean, it's only going to be on the thing for like 30 seconds. Hopefully it doesn't damage it. All right, so we'll try this. Hopefully it works. I could really see it peeling off the veneer, for lack of a better term, on the flooring, but we'll give it a shot. All right, so I got a piece cut. I'm gonna pop it in like this. Now what I would want is something to hook onto the side so I can pound it back for this seam. But I don't have anything like that. I tried to use this, and I hooked that in and did that, but it ended up chipping it, and it wasn't a really good solution. So let's try this tape. Now I've got a board, which will stick on here. Now we're gonna try and tap it in. I just pulled the board right off. That's not working. It's got some holding strength. Nah, it's not gonna work. All right, so it's mostly in. There's a bit of a gap here. What I'm gonna do is just continue on, because this is the only one that should really be an issue, that one and this one. After that, we're under the appliance, and there's gonna be a flat seam, so I don't care. I can come in tomorrow, I can go buy the tool, and I can hook it in there and pound it back that last little bit. Now over here, because we have to go in a little bit, what I actually did is I cut the little groove off of here, right here. That was on there. That way, so it's just gonna set in there. I'll cut the tongue off the other piece too, and I'll actually put a little bit of that double-sided tape right here. If I can lift it up, I'll go under it too. The appliance comes to about here-ish. Well, you can see right there. The stove comes to about here, but then the door hangs over to about here. So you're not really gonna see this much. And if I put the tape down to hold that in place and my cut is nice and straight, we should be good. There's not a lot of room to squeeze through here with the fridge out. So I'm just cutting this with a circular saw, and pen will not draw on either front or back, but score it with a knife and that does it. Some of these flooring planks you can score with a knife and then just break it. Not this one. I did 3 or 4 deep scores and snapped it, and it didn't snap cleanly, so I'm just using the saw. And there's a little bit of chip out when I do it, but this is gonna get covered with a baseboard, so I don't care. If I wasn't doing baseboard or something like that, I would throw some painter's tape before I cut. That'll prevent the chip out. Also, can you say it with me? This is temporary. The flooring in the kitchen is gonna get replaced when the kitchen gets remodeled. Now once we're in, I have to cut this bit of the tongue out and the entire tongue on that side out. I think I can leave this one on. I just kind of eyeballed it. I think that's right. Seems like that's gonna work. Now this is lifted up a little bit, but the next piece will hold it down. Oh, these are just cut flush. So the next piece will hold it down-ish. I'm gonna throw some of that double-sided tape under here though. And then, that's right, I cut this. These have the tongues on them. Well, that one's cut. This one has the tongue. So they might kind of interlock. It doesn't matter, we're under the appliance, but just as far as holding this in place. Boy, peeling the backing off of this was fun. All right, that should hold. And hopefully the foot of one of these appliances lands right on here, so the weight is right there. Now, the rest of it should be super easy. Also, I know I'm gonna get a comment on it. The floor isn't gonna be perfectly flush because of this. I have to vacuum, I'll do that in a second. If this was an area that would be walked on, you would notice that. Being that it's gonna be under the appliances, I don't care. When I do redo this room, there's still gonna be appliances here, so I might not bother tearing that off, but if anything else is being taken out here, might end up having that problem, so I might try to remove that. The previous owner who laid the floor though told me good luck on removing that when I mentioned it to him. so it might not get removed. In the bathroom where I put it, I took a cabinet out, so there was some, I took some peel and stick tiles, and I figured 2 layers of peel and stick is close enough to that. So I just put random peel and stick tiles that I got for next to nothing on clearance to fill in that gap, and then I put the floor over it. Not really a concern here though. Look at how nice this looks until you come over here, but it still looks pretty nice. Here I just pieced these in with scraps because I didn't want to waste any more of them since it's going to be behind the fridge. And since I had to cut the edges off, you can see there's a gap here. I cut the tongues off to fit them in, and then there's this gap here. I don't want it sliding back, so I threw some brad nails in this back row just so I can see it sliding when I'm pushing the fridge back. I do still need to close this gap tomorrow. I'll get that tool, pop it in there, and pound it out. It shouldn't be a problem putting the corner on next because we'll still have plenty of space to fit that tool in. So it looks nice. It's a shame it's going to be covered up by the fridge. I won't even be able to enjoy it. All right, I got the corner in because the wall isn't straight. There's a big gap here. I'm just going to fill it with caulking. It'll be fine. Now notice to get the same, so it's squared off. This piece is longer than that piece. It'll be less obvious once it's painted because this black line won't be there. But a little caulk on the top. I don't think we'll need it on the bottom. That's really annoying. So this, my nails wouldn't actually go all the way through. So what I did is I attached this one and then I attached this to that. So that's all that's holding that. But other than that, this covers, well, I guess there's still some screws showing. I figured all those would be covered, but you'll never see that with the fridge there, and you'll be looking at it this way. I'll just need to fill these in. I'm gonna get my nail punch to put that in the rest of the way. Oh, so when you're putting these nails in, you don't want to have your fingers anywhere near it. And let me show you why. That's why. If my finger was there, nail would have gone through it. I'm not sure how I'm gonna fix that yet. So basically I just put a screwdriver there and pounded it in, and then I'll cover that with wood filler. But holy cow, this one, it hit something in there and shot out this way. And the baseboard's in. I haven't nailed this one yet because I need to be able to get in there tomorrow to pull this board over. That one was just a piece of scrap that I found in the burn pit, but it's the same stuff I have throughout the rest of the house. So it'll cover with a little bit. Oh, it's nice. This is looking really good. Now, it's been like 2 hours. This is dry. We're ready to paint. So I'm gonna go in the basement and see what I can find for white paint. I think I've got a few options. And I will cover this and we will get to painting. Ignore that. That we'll just pretend didn't happen. All right, since we've got a floor here, I put a drop cloth down. I filled the nail holes with this plastic wood. This dries pretty fast. This is also really old. It's a lot more liquidy than normal, so I'm gonna have to get a new one. It's like 4 years old. But those are all filled in. I'll hit that with a light sand. I'm sure these will be dry. I think they're already dry. I'll hit them with a light sand before I paint that area. I'm ready to start painting. So I have no idea where this paint's from. It was here when I moved in. It could be the paint from the walls. It could be the paint from the cabinets. I don't know if they use 2 different paints. It could be the paint from the basement walls. I don't think it's concrete paint though, but I'm having the hardest time getting this lid off. Well, this worries me. There's rust in there. I hope that doesn't tint it. So I painted some here. I don't know how well it shows up on camera, but it does seem to have right around here a bit of a pinkish hue, but it's ever so slight. I don't know if it would be noticeable, and we'll see what happens when it dries. I'm gonna go with it. I can always repaint later if I need to. All right, here's what I don't know. I don't know if this paint matches. It's too hard to tell. Obviously there's a line there, so it's tough to tell. I did paint over the pink. I left the bottom because I didn't tape off the floor. Not that it matters that much if it's painted, not that it matters that much if it's some on the floor, but whatever. Looks like there's a spot there that I missed. I don't know. I also don't know how this is gonna look in the morning when there's daylight shining on it. So a lot of questions here. What I do know, I'm definitely gonna need a second coat. And it's 12:30, it's after midnight. So I'm not gonna do that tonight. Get, hey, no, go away. Go away. Go away. Come on, there you go. That's not paint. That's the old tray. So, no, I guess the stick. Get. Hold on. All right. So, definitely gonna need a second coat of paint. It says 2-hour dry time. That's gonna put me at 2:30 a.m. and I do have to work tomorrow. So, I'm not gonna do another coat tonight. So, I'll close that up. Really? I thought I scared you away. I'll close that up, get this in a bag, and then do another coat. Probably in the morning before work, I'll try to do one. I'm just gonna quick touch that up and then we'll be good. This looks so much nicer than over here. Looks like $1,000,000. I need to put a piece of crown up there. That paint, I hope it's just because it's wet, because that looks way different. More different on camera than in person. This looks a little screwy, but it'll be fine. It's not crazy. Maybe I should have gone all the way down. I don't know. Yeah, I think in hindsight, that front piece that I put on there, the face frame, I should have stopped at the crown and extended the top of the cabinet to the front of the bulkhead. That's what I should have done. Oh well, you live and you learn. It will do the job. Nobody, the one person or group who's renting this as an Airbnb for a week, they're not going to complain about that. Christiana might, but they won't. And that's what matters. It looks so much better. I really wish this seam could have been here. This seam could have been here. That was the original plan, to put the bigger one here and the smaller one there. But that didn't work. So I just had to do this way. I don't know how well this shows up. I can see it better in person, but there's a line right there where I stopped painting. I think this is the cabinet paint. Because the cabinet paint, again, I don't know how well it shows up on camera. The cabinet paint has a little bit of a pinker hue. It looks white until you're comparing the two. I think that's what I used on the wall. So I think I'll have to find a different paint. It'll be fine. I'll just put, yeah, you can see this is a lot more matte than that too. So I know I have the paint that they used on these walls. They painted them right before I bought the house, because I did some touch-up work up, I did some touch-up work up there, but since I've got the paint out, I think I'm gonna do a little bit more touch-up work. And then there used to be a ceiling fan here. This one, turn on the light in here, turned out a lot better. Look at that, perfect match. And I used paint that was here for that, because the ring for the ceiling fan was a lot bigger than that. So somewhere around here, there's the proper paint. And I don't think this is it. But it's good enough for the first coat. The second coat with the right paint, it's white on white. You won't even tell the difference. All right, so the next morning, the mudding actually looks pretty good. It's not perfect, but I don't think, other than that little bit, I don't think it's that noticeable unless you're looking for it. Did another coat of paint. Used different paint. This is more of a white. Oh, I gotta touch that trip up. I also painted around that, so that looks better. This should be it for painting. It looks a little uneven there, but I'm guessing once it dries, it'll look better. So I'll touch that up, and then I gotta go to work. So this will be how it stays for the day. All right, let's get this finished up. You can kind of see a little bit of difference in the paint. I think that's just because some of the paint has been there for 4 or 5 years and some of it's new. But I think it's fine for now. When I redo the kitchen, I'll just do a full repaint. This is the bar that I needed for right here. That part hooks onto the side, and now I got something to hammer here. So, difficult to do that with one hand. Yeah, I'm gonna need 2 hands for that. And that gap now nice and closed. So now I can put the spaceboard back on, and someone is hungry. All right, caulking is done. You can see there's a nice transition up there. Along here, right here is where it got really wide, and down here. I don't know how long this caulking will last there. We'll see. I might throw a coat of paint over that once the caulking is dry. Just, I don't know, it gives it a little more hardness to keep it from cracking, maybe. I have no idea. I caulked up there, although it didn't really seem like I needed to. It was just paint there. I feel like that could crack. So I decided to do that. Now, I think what I'm gonna do is, I decided I'm gonna put a shelf up here. So we're gonna cut some ledgers to hold up the shelf. So anytime I'm making a cut, I'm actually driving to the new house. It's only like 5 blocks away, but I'm currently remodeling the basement here. And for these like 5, this is only my second time having to drive over here. I have the table saw at home and a circular saw for a lot of it. But for the 2 cuts, I don't want to have, or 2 times cutting, I don't want to have to lug this up the stairs outside, load it on the truck, and drive it home and get it all set up. It's just better having it already set up here. So I cut this is a chair rail. I'm going to use it as crown molding just for the edge of the cabinet. I cut that at a nice bevel so it looks nice. I do need to paint the edge of that. I forgot to install this before I was painting. And then I got another 1x2 primed. I'm not going to bother painting this because it's going to be mostly covered by the shelf. You'll barely see it. So I'll cut this as the ledger board. There, that gives it a nice little finished look. The paint doesn't really match, so this is a scrap. As a matter of fact, this is from when I remodeled this bathroom and some of this chair railing. I actually pulled it out of the burn pile. I'm actually gonna do the touch-up paint on that now. I was gonna wait, I was thinking I was just gonna do the end, but I think that needs it now. I know I said this before, but I'm done painting. I painted the edges of this. I actually painted the screws white. I painted that, including the edge, and then I did recoat on here because for some reason, this paint that's a lighter and different sheen, I painted that. And this should be, I'm pretty sure that's the cabinet paint, so it should match now when it dries. Those ends and that thing are also the cabinet paint, but I don't think it's gonna be that noticeable for that little bit that I did. I'm not getting out another can of paint for that. So this is the ledger boards. We're gonna put a shelf on top of that, and then that'll be done. Oh, look at that. The shelf I also got for free. My last place was a rental, and that was in the garage, and I decided to take it with me when I moved out. So that wasn't that, it was much longer. I cut it to fit. Also, the walls or the cabinets, something isn't square here. So I really had to pound it in. You can see it damaged the drywall, but I don't care because when this comes out, a cabinet's going here, it'll cover it up. So a little ugly on the bottom. That's just the design of this type of shelf hanger system. But once I put the fridge here, there'll be stuff on top of the fridge that's gonna block that stuff mostly. All right, I put all this work into this floor. Now let's cover it up to never look at it again. So in order to open the door, I have to pull it off of here a little bit. Still not gonna open all, it'll open enough for us to use. Won't be able to pull the shelves out without pulling the whole thing out. And I'm worried that this is gonna damage the front. But it's not a super nice fridge anyway. So, and then this area here, I guess it's a good thing we put the floor all the way in. Maybe I should have, in hindsight now, maybe I should have completed the baseboard. Oh well. So we'll just have stuff here. There. Now you can't even tell the baseboard's missing. So now we'll take care of that later. We always kept like chips and stuff up here, something about putting a basket that we can pull out. But now I need to take this microwave down so I can move it over. And don't worry about that outlet, it should land behind this. And for what it's worth, the edge of a cabinet was right where this seam was originally. So this stove was sitting right here. So I moved it over that way about a foot. Now I'm gonna move it back this way about 8-10 inches from its original spot. Boy, that makes this area feel so much more open. And then the garbage can will go here because it used to be in the hole there. This is showing a little bit. I think that's attached, yeah. Sometimes I have these where it's just laying on the floor. Not a big deal because the garbage can will be here to block it. I have to move the microwave over, so I actually have to pull this out to do that. And up here, I had planned on venting the microwave up through the roof because there's already a roof vent there. I'm not going to do that because even after I move the microwave here, I'm actually going to put it here when we fully remodel the kitchen. So that's why I didn't finish any of the vent work, but I would like to close that off so we can actually use this. And if you'll notice, you can't quite see, the microwave actually sticks up into the cabinet here. So I'm gonna have to take the fan off and flip it around so it actually vents out through this. So microwave's up. Now this, how it's sticking out, right now it's pulling air in from underneath and blowing it up with the anticipation of there being a vent. Taking this off, should be 1, 2, 3, 4 screws. And that should come off and I should be able to rotate it so it'll go in through the inner ductwork and out here. And I guess this back panel slides off and I think these need to come out. I'm just kind of figuring stuff out here. Well, that was trickier than it had to be, but I think I got this put together right. This is an extra part, which I do need to hang on to because that's the part that was up here. I actually had to cut these so it wouldn't interfere. The vent that I had attached to it kept hitting. But when I do decide to vent it outside, I will need this. So I have to put it somewhere where I'm not gonna lose it. And now this needs to be moved over. So this is held up with toggle bolts when I can't go in a stud. And the way it works is you do that, you push it in the wall and then let go. And it will hold it to the wall and then you screw it tight. Now, because of that, when I took it off, I knew I would not get this part back. It would just fall in the wall. So I did buy more toggle bolts, but the one from there actually fell out right here. So I can reuse that one. You can actually, I don't know if it shows up on camera, kind of see it's still in there. All right, problem solving. I was hoping to have this done 22 minutes ago. The schedule would be to have the microwave up by 8 so I can start on the next part because Christiana does get home tonight and she is on the plane right now. I can't drill a hole right here. This B hole is one of the more important holes on here and I can't get a toggle bolt in there. You can see I tried. I cut plywood. I'm gonna attach plywood to this and then attach that to the plywood and hopefully that'll hold it. All right, now we've got a backer. Now you will be able to see this from the edge here. So I may need to touch up some paint. That's gonna be another day though. I'm not gonna mess around with that because as you notice, we're gonna have this to cover up, which I have an idea on that. But it's 8:31. She's gonna be here in like an hour and 20 minutes. So I don't know if I'm gonna have time for that idea. I don't think this is gonna be complete today. But now I can hang that on there. I'm a little worried about the screw that's gonna go in here-ish or here-ish that we were trying to get in. And that might not go in further than the 1/2 inch here because of the metal. All right, I think this is gonna hold. I've got 8 screws holding the plywood on. This one is going through the plywood into the stud. This one is just going through the plywood, but this one and this one are going through and they're actually toggle bolts. So they're actually holding on the other side. I don't think this is going anywhere. Now I need to template out the top here. I don't need to cut this hole, but I do need to cut this one for the cord and then these 3 holes for the microwave itself. By the way, I was smart and I saved the template. And would you look at that? We got a microwave up here. I still need to deal with that. Just wait. I filled the hole up there with just a scrap piece of 1/4 inch that was actually part of the floor down there. I still need to do this, but I don't want to use 1/4 inch. I'd like to use something a little thicker, so I'll see what I've got. That way we can actually use this cabinet. I have never used this cabinet. I may have had stuff in here when I first moved in here, but when I cut that hole up there, I never put anything here because insulation and stuff falls down. And then here, yep, blows up here, blowing that insulation out that got stuck in there. Now, obviously that doesn't filter if there's anything here. It's not going out, it's blowing in the house, but it at least moves the air around, which is nice. That's about the only reason to use it. I need Christiana to come and set these clocks because she's the electrical engineer and I'm not. So as far as the original plan goes, we're done. But I didn't realize this was gonna be a thing. I figured that out yesterday. I started measuring off where that was. So we'll have to put something to cover this up. And then of course I'll have to do this. I'm not gonna have time to do this today and then patch these little holes and give this whole thing a paint. That's gonna be another day. What day that will be, I don't know, but there's definitely no time for that. Christiana just boarded her flight from Minneapolis, her connecting flight, so she's gonna be here in like an hour. So I need to get this taken care of. But first, I'm gonna clean everything up in case she comes home and I'm not done. Okay, whirlwind of emotions here. Christiana was supposed to be on her flight already for a while. She was actually supposed to land in about 15 minutes. And she's not flying into Green Bay. She's flying into Appleton, so about another 30-minute drive up here. So that means I would have about 45 minutes until she gets here. But her flight was delayed. She's going to be so angry that I'm celebrating this because she's had an exhausting work trip and probably does not enjoy that. But I'm happy because now I've got her flight lands at 10 after 11. So she won't be here until pretty close to midnight. It's 9:15. I got all sorts of time. I'll easily have this finished. Uh-oh, the foremans, they're here for their inspection. I hope I did it right. Sometimes it really sucks having 3 bosses. 2 foremans here, and 1 boss that is currently flying into Appleton. I feel like, I can't remember the guy's name. The guy from Office Space, who has a whole bunch of bosses. That's how I feel right now. By the way, as far as the visible floor here, this plank, there was one here, but it was cut right about there. So this is the one I added in that I had to hammer into place. And then this wouldn't have been here, so I added this one. This is the one where I used the double-sided tape right here to hold it down, to hold it in place. And then you can see down here, the seam from there goes straight back. So basically this is all that I needed, and the little patch in from this because this was cut off. Those are the only 2 that really needed to go in as far as visibility. I'm really glad because you can see down there, even though I'm gonna have probably that stepladder actually back there. It looks nice to have it, you know, the continuous floor there. It looks like it fits. Can you believe there used to be a chimney here? How great is that? I don't love how that looks, especially the screws. And I had a hard time finding the stud right there. I'm not a fan of that. But not much I can do about it now. It'll probably look better once there's stuff up there. So I made a box. This tool, the Craig jig, one of my favorite tools. If you're doing any type of woodworking, you have to get it. I was able to put this whole thing together. So what's the purpose of this box? Well, it's got hooks in it. Any guesses? Oh, look at that. Look how nice that looks. Now, that's an issue, but that can be fixed with some caulking. Honestly, this isn't, hold on, I'm gonna fix that right now. Never mind, I can't fix it because the issue is that screw actually sheared off. So I can't get that out to raise this up, which is really a bummer because that looks really shoddy. Maybe I'll throw a piece of trim over this and cord around along there. I kind of like that idea. Look at that, that looks nice. You can still see that's a little cockeyed with it, but it's much less obvious. I thought I had some pencil trim to put up there, but I'm not seeing any. So I'm just gonna leave it like that. Christiana's flight just landed. And you can kind of see it's cockeyed here. It's temporary. Getting it off, because I would kind of like to reuse this later when we get the new cabinets in. It's gonna be tricky because of that, but it needs some wood filler, needs some caulk, needs a coat of paint. I have no time for that. Christiana will be here in half an hour, so I'm gonna get this all set up and I'll give you some before and after shots. Well, that's it, folks. Christiana will be here any minute now. She said she landed a little bit ago. I don't even think she knows if I'm awake, but she definitely has no idea that any of this is happening. I'm thinking her reaction is going to be walking in and going, why is the garbage here? And then realizing that there wouldn't be room for the garbage there. I'm excited to see her reaction. I'm really pumped about this. I think it turned out great. It was fun. It was exhausting. It's 11:20 at night, so this is by far my earliest night working on this. And I'm going to be really sad to tear it all down next year. But it makes it look acceptable. It looks like a kitchen and not a construction site, and that was the goal. So I hope you enjoyed this one, and I will see you in the next one. It wouldn't be complete without Garfield.